Hey guys. All right. So I had started a couple of months ago a series on just kind of rare and I guess valuable jazz records that I've got. And I started with Prestige and then, I kind of dropped off, had a lot going on, but decided to do another one. This time I'm going to do one of them, another one of the legendary labels. Tonight I'm going to do Blue Note. I'm going to start with the 5000 series, which was their 10-inch LPs that were released between around 1952 and 1955. And then at that point, we start with the 12 inches. I'm going to go through the 1500 series, 4000, 41, and 4200. So people seem to like, just seeing rare and valuable jazz records and stuff. So sure, why not? I'll play along. So I'm going to start with 5000 series, 10 inches. So got these here. So first one is Thelonious Monk, Genius of Modern Music, 5002. This is a brilliant compilation of some stuff that was released on 78s back in the late 40s. So there's some killer stuff on this. Next up is 5004, which is Fats Navarro. And this is a collection. It's a memorial album, the Fats Navarro Memorial Album. This has some sessions of him with the Tad Dameron Sextet, Howard McGee Sextet, and Bud Powell's Modernists. So there's lots of good stuff on here. Fats Navarro was a great trumpet player, yet another one in a long line of many in jazz at that time that died way too young. Vibraphones in jazz, I'm all over it. 5011. This is Milt Jackson, Wizard of the Vibes. Excellent stuff if you like vibes. 5017. I believe this is Dizzy Gillespie's only session for Blue Note, but this is Horn of Plenty. This is a beautiful copy and plays wonderfully. What can I say about Dizzy Gillespie that hasn't been said 80,000 times? I mean, the guy's amazing. This is one of the nicest copies probably in existence of this. This is Horace Silver Trio, 5018. This has Horace Silver on piano, either Curly Russell or Gene Ramey on bass, depending on session, and Art Blakey on drums. So, a lot of great musicians, and some really good liner notes on this one, too, from Leonard Feather. So, let's see. Lou Donaldson. This is his Blue Note debut, 5021, North Carolina's own. This has Horace Silver, Blue Mitchell, Gene Ramey, and Art Blakey on it. There's more great jazz here than you can shake a stick at. This is one of my favorite of the 5000 series. Love this album to pieces. And by the way, these are just the originals. These are not my whole Blue Note collection. But anyway, next up, I'm just going in catalog order here. So 5022. This is Miles Davis Volume 2. Very nice copy of this. All of Miles Davis's Blue Note sessions were great. He didn't record a whole ton of stuff, certainly not as much as other artists did. I mean, he definitely recorded a good catalog of stuff, but not a ton in the grand scheme of things. But that particular one is really good. This one is super hard to find. It's not mega valuable, but man, is it super hard to find. This has to be one of the hardest ones to find in the 5000 series. This is Kenny Drew Trio. This has Kenny Drew on piano, Curly Russell on bass, and Art Blakey on drums. So just like the Horace Silver record, except with Kenny Drew on piano. And man, this thing cooks, especially for a trio record. Good stuff. One of my favorite jazz trombonists, this is 5028. This is J.J. Johnson. J.J. Johnson with, let's see, Clifford Brown, Jimmy Heath, John Lewis, Percy Heath, Kenny Clark. All good stuff. So, This is probably the nicest copy in the world of this. This is 50/30. This is Lou Donaldson and Clifford Brown. This was included on Clifford Brown's memorial album in the 1500 series. This is just non-stop bop, man. Oh, so good. All right, let's see. Wade Legg, 50/31. This has Lou Hackney on bass and Al Jones on drums. Not terribly familiar with those guys' work outside this record, but this one's a smoker. All right, this is Clifford Brown's debut for Blue Note on his own. This is 50/32, New Star on the Horizon. Found this one recently. This is a pretty good playable copy. You'll notice that a lot of these old rare jazz records, you know, mine are all generally solid VG, right? I'm not a trophy collector. I'm not looking for the nicest copy in the world of something. There are some that I probably do have the nicest copy in the world of, but you know, generally a VG copy, I want a good player. I want something that displays decent enough and is a good player. That's all I need. You know, you got to remember that I don't collect these as trophies. I love these records, and I just want to hear the original version of the recording that people heard back in the day. So that's why I have this stuff. All right, so this is 50/39. This is Art Blakey, Night at Birdland, Volume 3. Still need to find the first 2 volumes of this, but I'll take Volume 3. So this is fantastic band. This has Clifford Brown on trumpet, Lou Donaldson on alto, Horace Silver on piano, Curly Russell on bass, and of course Art Blakey on drums. So let's see. There's Miles Davis, Volume 3, 50/40. He only put out 3, well, there were only 3 albums of his in the 10-inch, in the 5000 series, and then all of those were collected on the first 2 1500 series albums, and that makes up everything that he recorded for Blue Note. So this is 50/41, the amazing Bud Powell. You know, Bud Powell was just an amazing pianist, and he's one of those that I could just sit and listen to forever. This one is actually funny because the front cover was actually printed upside down. So because of that, this opens actually on the left rather than on the right like it's supposed to. So I always thought that was kind of funny, but it's not the first time I've seen that, but it's the only example I have in my library of one that does that, but I've seen others. All right, so this one is Lou Donaldson Volume 2, 50/55. This just is more excellence. You know, this is great to just play back-to-back with 50/21 with the New Faces first Lou Donaldson debut. Let's see. All right, this is another gorgeous copy. 50/58 Horace Silver Quintet. This has Kenny Dorham on trumpet and Hank Mobley on tenor. That should tell you right there how good this is. This is actually kind of an early version of the Jazz Messengers, because you know your horn line of Kenny Dorham and Hank Mobley, and then your rhythm sections Horace Silver, Doug Watkins, and Art Blakey. So I mean, this is basically an early version of the Jazz Messengers. And then here's another Horace Silver 50/62. This is Horace Silver Quintet. This is also the same band. It's Kenny Dorham and Hank Mobley with Doug Watkins, Art Blakey, and Horace Silver. All right, this is probably the rarest and most valuable one I have in the 5000 series. This is Hank Mobley's debut, 50/66, Hank Mobley Quartet. This one is highly sought after and highly loved for a reason. You know, I think it's pretty well established that just about every session Hank Mobley did for Blue Note between the 50s through probably the mid-60s is fire. And I mean, for a debut, this is one of the all-time great debuts in the Blue Note catalog. It really is. And then the last one is another one from J.J. Johnson. This is 50/70. The Eminent J.J. Johnson, a lot of this stuff was reissued. This is volume 3. This was reissued as part of the 1500 series as well. So, and that's the funny thing about the 1500 series is that so many of those records, especially early in the series, were just reissues of what you could have already gotten on 10-inch. So, you know, it was an easy way to get people into 12-inch and to make a little bit of money on the back catalog, I guess. So with that said, let's go ahead and move over here to the 1500 series and go through some of these here. So, all right. So first one, we got Miles Davis, volumes 1 and 2. And there's volume 1, volume 2. These were the first two in the 1500 series, catalogs 1501 and 1502. And like I said, these are these two albums give you every single thing that Miles Davis ever recorded for Blue Note, with the exception of when he recorded later as a sideman with Cannonball Adderley on the Something Else album. That's the only thing he recorded for Blue Note that isn't on these, because when these came out, he hadn't recorded any of that yet. Okay, next up is another adjacent catalog number twofer. You got Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers at the Cafe Bohemia, Volume 1, 1507, Volume 2, 1508. These are excellent sounding recordings, and the performances are fantastic. It's definitely one of the best documents of that early version of the Messengers, with Horace Silver and Hank Mobley, Art Blakey, Kenny Dorham, Doug Watkins. That is, I mean, the Jazz Messengers have had so many amazing players go through those ranks over time, but this still stands as one of the best lineups of the Messengers, hands down. Okay, this next one, 1513. This is Thad Jones, Detroit, New York Junction. This is absolutely incredible. Thad Jones plays just an incredible trumpet on this. And hats off really on this session. Even more than Thad Jones is Billy Mitchell, the tenor sax player, and Kenny Burrell on guitar. Oh my God. I mean, the two of them just absolutely rip it up on this session. So highly recommended. You cannot do much better than this in the 1500 series. This is one of the all-time greats. All right, next up, so, you know, originally the Jazz Messengers were Horace Silver's band, and kind of, so this is Horace Silver and the Jazz Messengers, and this is with Kenny Dorham and Hank Mobley, along with Doug Watkins and Art Blakey. So this is good. I don't think it's the best Jazz Messengers recording, but this one's good. I really enjoy it. All right, this is a reissue of some stuff from 10-inch. So this is 1520. This is Horace Silver Trio. And then there's also the Art Blakey Sabu session on this as well. So it's a side 1, side 2 kind of thing. This, again, is good, but probably not my all-time favorite. Let's see. All right, this one's a biggie. This is 1523. This is Kenny Burrell's debut for Blue Note, introducing Kenny Burrell. This has Tommy Flanagan on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, Kenny Clark on drums. Candido plays congas. This is killer. There is so much great guitar here, and this just, I mean, if you don't know anything about Kenny Burrell, this is a good place to start, but really any of his Blue Note albums. But, you know, if I was just to throw one out, it'd be this one. All right, this is 1526. This is Clifford Brown's Memorial album. Like so many in jazz at that time, Clifford Brown died way too young, died in a car accident at age 25. So this is one of those things where it was a reissue of two 10 inches that Clifford Brown played on. One of them was the Lou Donaldson Clifford Brown 5030, and then that's side 2, and then side 1 is the New Faces, New Sounds Clifford Brown 10 inch. So it's just two of the 10 inches that are put on one 12 inch. Okay. Next up is 1527. This is the Magnificent Thad Jones. This just continues where Detroit, New York Junction left off. Absolutely essential in the 1500 series. Not saying you got to go out and find an original, but I am saying you got to own this. This is just amazing. This has Thad Jones on trumpet, Billy Mitchell again on tenor sax, Barry Harris on piano, who's an old bebop player, and Barry Harris has a style all his own. It's got Percy Heath on bass and Max Roach on drums, so killer band. This one's just kind of a nice, you know, kind of, I don't know, it just sets a nice vibe. This record's great. All right. Next up is another twofer. This is so this is just a reissue of most of Fats Navarro's Blue Note sessions, but this is the Fabulous Fats Navarro Volume 1 and Volume 2. And so if you like good trumpet, you can't go wrong with those. Fats Navarro was excellent. I would have loved to have seen where he would have gone if he had lived longer. But I guess we'll never know, sadly. Okay, what else we got here? Here's a biggie. All right, so some of this was released on 10 inch. Some of it wasn't. This is a highly sought after one. This is Kenny Dorham's Afro-Cuban, the 12 inch one. So side 1 is basically the Afro-Cuban 12 inch that came out in 53, 54, I think. And then side 2 has previously unreleased tracks. So this one, again, is, I would consider essential. It's amazing. You know, it's got a nice Latin flair to it, which, of course, you know, Kenny Dorham was kind of known for. So another big one here. This is 1538. I got lucky on this one. This is Lee Morgan indeed. This is Lee Morgan's debut for Blue Note. You know, I hear some jazz folks who think Lee Morgan's overrated. I think they're crazy. Lee Morgan is probably one of my favorite jazz trumpeters ever. This man could do no wrong, in my eyes. Yet again, another example of somebody who died way too young. But I mean, this is just an absolutely smoking debut. It's got you know, in addition to Morgan, you got Clarence Sharp on alto, and then Horace Silver on piano, Philly Joe Jones on drums, and Wilbur Ware on bass. And I mean, for a debut album, this was a hell of a statement. All right, next up, we got another Lee Morgan. This is 1541. This is Lee Morgan Sextet, or otherwise known as Lee Morgan Volume 2. So this has, along with Morgan, you got Hank Mobley on tenor, Kenny Rogers on alto sax, Horace Silver on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Charlie Persip on drums. This was the beginning of a bit of a collaboration, I guess, with Benny Golson, because Benny Golson actually wrote most, if not all, the songs on here. I believe he wrote them all. And he did a lot of the arrangements and things, and this would continue on to the next album as well. So, you know, some people say that that these couple of these early Lee Morgan records are some of the best Benny Golson albums ever, which is funny. But, all right, next up, 1546, The Magnificent Thad Jones, Volume 3. If you like Detroit, New York Junction, you like Magnificent Thad Jones Volume 2, you're going to like this one. Of the 3 that Thad Jones did for Blue Note, I actually think this one's my favorite. This one's a perfect 10. It really is. All right, next up is an early Hank Mobley 1550. This has Art Farmer on trumpet, along with Mobley on tenor, and then your rhythm section is Horace Silver, Doug Watkins, and Art Blakey. All stalwart rhythm section. Art Farmer is a great trumpet player. He's probably not held in the, in the category of royalty. Whether or not he should be, I guess, is up for debate. But Art Farmer was definitely a great player. So, good record here. All right. Next up, all right. So, people love to shit on Jimmy Smith. And you can say whatever you want about the guy, but he was a great organ player. And he was Blue Note's best-selling artist at the time. I mean, there's no way around that. This man was literally paying Blue Note's bills in the 50s. So all of those great records that you love, you can thank Jimmy Smith for making that possible. Because if his records weren't selling, none of those other records that you love would have been around. So let's give Jimmy Smith a little bit of respect. But Jimmy Smith, great organ player, and I've got a few albums of his in this video. But this has Eddie McFadden on guitar, Donald Bailey and Art Blakey on drums, depending on which session the song was recorded in. But I've always liked this. This has always been one of my personal favorite Jimmy Smith records. So, all right, next up, another Lee Morgan record. This is 1557. This is Lee Morgan Volume 3. This is another one where Benny Golson wrote everything. It has an unbelievable band as well. This is Lee Morgan. So your horn line is Lee Morgan, Gigi Grice on alto, and Benny Golson on tenor. And then your rhythm sections, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Charlie Persip. And this one has, a couple of the songs have a bit of a Latin feel to them, but there is so much good stuff. It's also kind of funny, too, because some people find this record off-putting because the very first song, Hassan's Dream, actually opens up with a flute solo, which is a little bit odd, but, it's not indicative of the entire record. All right, next up, 1575. This is another Lee Morgan record. This is my personal favorite of his in the 1500 series, City Lights. Some people aren't as big on this record, but it's always done it for me. So horn line here is Lee Morgan with Curtis Fuller on trombone and George Coleman on tenor and alto. And then your rhythm section is Ray Bryant, Paul Chambers, and Art Taylor. So great rhythm section, great horn line. There's some really great stuff here. City Lights, Just By Myself. Great stuff. All right. So this one is, I'm going to say it's original enough to call it original. So this is 1577. It's John Coltrane's Blue Train. This is one of the jazz gateway drugs. We all know this record. We all love this record. This one, I'm just going to, without going into too much of an explanation, it does not have New York 23 on one side. However, there are only 4 Blue Note titles known that have NY 23 on one side, but not on the other as far as the center labels. And I will guarantee you that was Plastilite using up old label stock, and they just had them on the press 1 or 2 days. And if I were a betting man, I would bet that on release day, copies both with NY23 on one side and without both existed, and you could probably buy both on release day. If I were a betting man, I would put heavy money down on that. But this has the original cover. It's the right shade of blue. And it also does not have the messed up Curtis Fuller picture on the back. That is the correct one. So I classify this as original enough to call it original. And honestly, if you're one of those that, is specifically looking for an NY23 label on one side, I would say you're just paying a ridiculous amount of money for a label, because I'll guarantee you both versions were available on release day. All right, this next one, this is 1578, another Lee Morgan record, The Cooker. And that is probably the most apt name of any Blue Note album known. This thing cooks top to bottom. So this is actually a cool horn line. It's Lee Morgan on trumpet and Pepper Adams on baritone. And then your rhythm sections, Bobby Timmons, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. So yeah, this, if you just want if you're looking at Lee Morgan's, especially his early catalog, and you're looking for something that just maintains a nice mid-tempo all the way through, and just something you can kind of tap your foot along to consistently, this is the one. All right, next up, 1587. This is Benny Green back on the scene. This is unbelievable. This is another one that I would personally classify as a perfect 10. This has Benny Green on trombone and Charlie Rouse on tenor sax. Benny Green was just, he's one of those guys whose style might not appeal to everybody, but there's no denying this guy had a sound all his own. I love Benny Green so much. He's one of my favorite trombone players next to J.J. Johnson and Curtis Fuller. All right, this is another big one here. This is 1588. Luckily, I was able to hang on to this. This is Sonny Clark's Cool Struttin'. Probably saved this one from going to Japan. If for most of us in jazz, if you ask if somebody were to ask you, what is the jazz album you start with, the one that everybody should have, a lot of people would probably tell you Miles Davis Kind of Blue or John Coltrane's Blue Train or whatever. In Japan, this is their jazz record. Like, if you ask a Japanese jazz lover, like, where do you get into jazz? What's the record that you should start with? A lot of them are going to tell you Cool Struttin'. They love this record over there. Supposedly, Cool Struttin' has sold over 200,000 copies, which is a lot for a Blue Note album, and especially this period. And over 80% of those allegedly have been sold in Japan. So, all right, here's another biggie. This is another Lee Morgan album, 1590. This is Candy. I am so glad to have an original copy of this, because the only other pre-digital era issue of Candy had a different cover art, different name, different record label even. It was released on Sunset after Liberty bought Blue Note. So these are very difficult to find. This one looks good, plays great. So... and then this one's another huge one. Unfortunately, the back of it is pretty marked up. It belonged to a radio DJ that owned that had a jazz show here in Raleigh on WPTF radio. This guy Bill Frazier. But the front looks great and the vinyl looks great, plays great. So this is Lewis Smith's Smithville. Amazing record, and this is probably one of the hardest ones to find in the 1500 series. I mean, when you think of the really hard ones to find, right, like, Yuta Hip and Zoot Sims, or 1557 Cliff Craft, right? I think this and Cliff Craft are probably the two hardest ones to find. I mean, I see probably 4 copies of Yuta Hip and Zoot Sims show up for every 1 copy of this I ever see. And then the last one here, this is 1598. This is volume 4 of The Amazing Bud Powell. This was actually a new session. This is not a collection of stuff that was released on 10-inch. It's late 50s Bud Powell. So, when you know what you're going to get. It's good stuff. All right, so that eats up the 1500 series. So let's grab the 4000 series here. And we're going to start right at the very beginning. This is 4001, first one in the 4000 series. Sonny Rollins' Nukes Time. In addition to this being a phenomenal record, Sonny Rollins, Wynton Kelly, Doug Watkins, and Philly Joe Jones. So it's just a tenor sax quartet. I think this is one of the best sounding albums that ever came out of Rudy Van Gelder's lathe. I mean, this thing, Rudy Van Gelder was known to cut these albums hot anyway to make them sound good on lesser equipment. But man, this one's cut hot even by his standards. This thing just sounds amazing. This is, I would say, a good introduction to Blue Note albums and to hard bop by Mr. Hard Bop himself. So this is Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. This album is affectionately known as Moanin', because that's the track that this record's most known for. Technically, it's just self-titled, but this was another great lineup of the Messengers. It had Lee Morgan on trumpet, Benny Golson on tenor, Bobby Timmons on piano, Jimmy Merritt on bass, and Art Blakey on drums. This is an all-time classic of the Blue Note catalog. I believe it's one of the best-selling Blue Note albums, probably with good reason. It's fantastic. Okay, next up, 4006. This is Dizzy Reese, Blues in Trinity. This has Donald Byrd on trumpet and Tubby Hayes on tenor sax, in addition to Dizzy Reese on trumpet, of course. And then your rhythm section is Terry Shannon, Lloyd Thompson, and Art Taylor. This is probably Dizzy Reese's best album for Blue Note, pound for pound. There's a lot of good stuff on here. All right, this is volume 5 of The Amazing Bud Powell, The Scene Changes, 4009. So this one has Bud Powell, Paul Chambers, and Art Taylor, so good, competent trio. Lots of good stuff on here. Cleopatra's Dream, Down With It, Dance Land, Getting There, The Scene Changes. These are all great tracks. All right, now we're getting into some gold. This is... I believe Jackie McLean's debut for Blue Note. Certainly not his first leader session, but his debut for Blue Note. This is a stereo copy of New Soil. This has Donald Byrd on trumpet, along with Jackie McLean on alto, of course. And then your rhythm sections, Walter Davis Jr., Paul Chambers, and Pete LaRocca. Hip Strut and Sweet Cakes, I think, are the best tracks on here, personally. There's lots of good stuff, though. This is a great listen. This has always been a good rainy day record for me for some reason. All right, so this one, is not too bad. A little bit marked up. This was another one from the Bill Frazier collection. So this is 4021. This is Kenny Burrell with Art Blakey on view at the 5 Spot Cafe. This is an excellent live recording. And you got Tina Brooks on tenor sax with Kenny Burrell on guitar, of course. And then you've got Bobby Timmons and Roland Hanna on piano, Ben Tucker on bass, and Art Blakey on drums. So killer band, and they run through some great tracks here. Burke's Works, Lady Be Good, Lover Man. There's some good stuff on here. This is a gorgeous copy of 4024. This is another Jackie McLean, Swing, Swang, Swingin'. This is a very well-loved album of his. I know a good number of people who would probably say this is one of his best Blue Note sessions. Can't go wrong with this one. All right, this one's a heavy hitter. This is probably one of the top 5 greatest Blue Note sessions ever. This is Soul Station by Hank Mobley. People love this record. I can't possibly say anything about this that hasn't been said 100 times. It's got Mobley. It's a tenor sax quartet with Mobley, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Art Blakey. This is just a nice mid-tempo. It just sets so many good vibes. It's a great late night record when you just want to chill out and just zone out. Oh, so good. And what's funny about this record too is that there are a few moments here where Paul Chambers, the bassist, is holding that entire band together. It's really obvious and very fun to hear. All right, next up, 4034. This is a nice copy of Lee Morgan's Leeway. This has Morgan, of course, along with Jackie McLean on alto, and then a rhythm section of Bobby Timmons, Paul Chambers, and Art Blakey. There's only 4 tracks on here. They're all great. This is one of Lee Morgan's best. All right, this is 4043. This is Speaking My Piece by the Horace Parlan Quintet. So this has Tommy Turrentine on trumpet. Both of the Turrentine brothers. It's got Tommy Turrentine on trumpet and Stanley Turrentine on tenor, along with Horace Parlan on piano and George Tucker on bass and Al Harewood on drums. This is just a kick-ass quintet. quintet record. Horace Parlan does a great job leading everything here. Up in Cynthia's Room, Borderline, Oh So Blue. Oh, so good. All right. This is another big one here. This is another great late night record like Soul Station where you just want to chill out, zone out. This is Shades of Red by the Freddie Red Quintet. Unbelievable record. This has Jackie McLean on alto, Tyner Brooks on tenor. Wow, boy, I'm on a roll tonight. Freddie Red on piano, obviously Paul Chambers on bass and Louis Hayes on drums. Best tracks on here, got to say Thespian, Shadows, and probably Swift. Those are all great. Let's see. All right, next up, 4058. This is another great Hank Mobley session. This is Roll Call. It's got Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, and your rhythm sections, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Art Blakey. Roll Call, I think, is every bit as good as Soul Station, even though it's a much different vibe when you listen to it. Roll Call is a lot more, I don't know, I guess rowdy is one word for it. Roll Call just, it's more energetic, I think, than Soul Station, but killer record. All right, so this one is one of my personal favorites in the 4000 series. This is a real nice copy of Grant Green's debut for Blue Note, Grant's first stand. You know, when it comes to guitar players of this period, I mean, you got, in my opinion, you've got Kenny Burrell, Grant Green, and then you've got everybody else. There is so much good stuff here. Miss Ann's Tempo, Blues for Willerine, Ain't Nobody's Business If I Do. So much good stuff here. This isn't always the record that people talk about when they talk about Grant Green's Blue Note sessions, but I feel like people should talk about it a little more because there really is a ton of great stuff here. All right, next, you got Green Street. This is another Grant Green original. This is 4071. So this is just a guitar trio with Ben Tucker on bass and Dave Bailey on drums. And there's plenty of great stuff here. Number 1, Green Street, a killer rendition, Around About Midnight. Grant's Dimensions, Alone Together. So much. This one's heavy. Good stuff. All right. Oh, yay. We're going back to Jimmy Smith, 4078. This is a killer one. Legendary cover, too. Great cover. Jimmy Smith on the train there. This is called Midnight Special. Plenty of good stuff to go around here. So this has Stanley Turrentine on tenor and Kenny Burrell on guitar, along with Don Bailey on drums. So, you know, just organ, tenor sax, guitar, good stuff. If you like soul jazz, you like, you know, organ-based jazz, you're going to love this. All right. Next up is 4080. This is Workout by Hank Mobley. So it's funny because the stereo version actually came out a little bit later than the mono version. So, but this is an original stereo, which came out a little bit later. Has different labels than the mono version. And then last one in the 4000 series. This one's an absolute smoker. This is 4094, Hootin' and Tootin' by Fred Jackson. This is a great soul jazz session with Freddie Jackson, Earl Van Dyke on organ, Willie Jones on guitar, and Wilbert Hogan on drums. If you like soul jazz, this will be right up your alley. All right, at this point, I'm going to call it good, and I will go ahead and post 4100 and the 4200 series probably tomorrow. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. As you can see, I love my Blue Note albums. So anyway, have a great night, guys. Thank you.